Sometimes, the world only sees the spotlight, the fame, the applause, the glamorous outcomes. But behind every success, there's a story the lights don't show. Jared Leto's story begins not in privilege, but in persistence. Born in Louisiana and raised by a single mother who struggled to make ends meet, he learned early that art was more than entertainment. It was survival. His childhood was scattered across small towns and temporary homes. But within that chaos, his mother planted a belief creativity could build a bridge out of hardship. She taught him that imagination was a kind of freedom, that even when the fridge was empty, their minds could still be full of color and sound. That idea shaped the boy who would one day become one of Hollywood's most unpredictable artists. In his teenage years, Jared drifted, searching for purpose. There were wrong turns, broken schools, and a sense of being lost in a world that didn't seem to have a place for dreams. But that restless energy became his compass. When he discovered art and music, expression gave structure to his chaos. He began to paint, to write, it wasn't about attention, it was about identity. He would later say that you might as well take a chance on doing what you love, because playing it safe is the surest way to fail without even trying. Those weren't words from a comfortable man. They came from someone who had risked everything simply to feel alive. When Jared moved to Los Angeles, he had almost nothing. No connections, no money, only a vision that he refused to let. The city was brutal. He slept in cheap apartments, skipped meals, and carried rejection after rejection like invisible scars. But he didn't complain. He learned to turn no into fuel, to see struggle as a test of. Acting was his dream, but it wasn't about fame. It was about transformation. He wanted to understand people, to live 100 lives within one. When the world told him he wasn't ready, he stayed ready anyway. Then slowly the doors began to open. Small roles turned into memorable. When he appeared in My So-Called Life, audiences noticed something different, an authenticity that couldn't be faked. Yet even as the industry tried to typecast him as a heartthrob, he resisted. He didn't want comfort, he dove into difficult characters, people broken, misunderstood. In Requiem for a Dream, he descended into addiction and despair so completely that it haunted him long after the camera. To some, it looked like madness. To Jared, it was honesty. Great art, he believed, demanded everything. But acting was only half of his heart. With his brother Shannon, he formed 30 Seconds to Mars, a band born not out of fame, but of necessity. Music was where his soul went when words failed. They began from nothing. Tiny venues, skeptical crowds, constant travel in a beat-up van. Labels ignored them, critics dismissed them. Yet every night they played as if the world was listening. Their mantra was simple: create fearlessly. And eventually the world did listen. Songs like The Kill and From Yesterday became anthems for anyone fighting to hold on to a dream. Jared didn't just build a fan base, he built a community. People who saw in his struggle a mirror of their own. Even with success, the tests didn't stop. The entertainment industry often punishes those who refuse to fit its mold. Jared's dedication to both music and film made him an outsider to each. But he never cared about fitting in. He cared about standing for something real. Years later, when he transformed himself for Dallas Buyers Club, losing over 30 pounds to portray Rayon, a transgender woman fighting AIDS, the world finally saw the depth of his commitment. He lived that role with compassion so raw that audiences forgot they were watching a performance. When he won the Academy Award, he used his moment not to boast, but to thank his mother, the woman who taught him to dream without limits, and to honor all those who feel unseen. It was proof that faith in yourself can outlast every doubt the world throws your way. What people don't realize is that behind Jared's art lies relentless discipline. Whether preparing for a film or building a tour, he pushes himself to exhaustion. He studies, practices, rewrites, rebuilds again and again. Because excellence isn't a burst of inspiration, it's repetition. He once said that if you're not willing to be misunderstood, you'll never do anything original. Those words carry the truth of his life. From starving artist to Oscar winner, he's been misunderstood at every stage, yet every misunderstanding became a milestone. His band continued to evolve, blending cinematic soundscapes with emotional storytelling. Concerts turned into experiences. Thousands of people screaming, crying, healing together. For Jared, that connection mattered more than any trophy. Music wasn't just performance, it was communion. And between tours and film sets, he explored other passions directing, photography, entrepreneurship, proving that creativity has no borders. He approaches every field with the same curiosity. There were missteps, controversies, periods of silence, but Jared learned to see setbacks as chapters, not endings. He rebuilt himself again and again, understanding that reinvention is the purest form of growth. In every interview, his message is the same. Persistence is the art of believing long after the excitement fades. He reminds us that talent is common, but endurance is rare, and that what separates the dreamers from the achievers is the willingness to keep showing up when no one is watching. What makes Jared's story deeply motivational is not the fame he gained, but the faith he never lost. He believed that art could change lives, starting with his own. He believed that pain could be transformed into creation, and that failure could become a teacher if you're humble enough to listen. His life tells us that passion is messy, uncomfortable, and uncertain, but it's the only path that leads to meaning. Every obstacle he faced became an invitation to evolve. Every criticism became proof that he was daring to be different. Today, when people see Jared Leto walking on a red carpet or performing in front of thousands, they see the result, not the reason. The reason is simple. He refused to quit. He turned rejection into rhythm, struggle into story. He is living evidence that dreams don't belong to the lucky. They belong to the relentless. His journey says to every person who feels invisible, your circumstances do not define your capacity. Where you start doesn't determine where you can go. It's not the applause that validates you, it's the courage to keep creating even when the world is silent. And maybe that's the real lesson. Success isn't about reaching a destination. It's about daring to walk the road when no one believes in you. It's about showing up to the studio, the stage, the blank page, with a heart still willing to try. Jared's story teaches us that art in any form is a conversation between pain and possibility. That when you commit to what you love, the universe eventually meets you halfway. It may take years, it may take everything, but the reward is becoming the person you were meant to be. So, when life tests your resolve, remember Jared Leto, the boy who came from nothing, who chased two impossible dreams and made them both real. Remember that taking a chance on what you love is never reckless. It's necessary. Remember that failure is not final, and that growth often hides behind discomfort. Because one day, like Jared, you'll look back and realize the struggle wasn't the barrier. It was the bridge. And in that realization lies the truest form of success. Not the applause, not the award, but the quiet confidence that you never betrayed your passion. You took the chance. You lived the story. And that made all the difference.